to my class. I am Pamela Jasmine. Today I am going to teach civics, the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. First of all, we have to study the appointment, how the Prime Minister is appointed. The Prime Minister is appointed by the President. See, how is the procedure? Let's see. According to convention, the President invites the leader of the majority party or group in the Lok Sabha to form the government. So after the general election, the President invites the leader of the majority party. If a single party cannot have the majority, then a group will be called. The leader of the group will be called to form the government. The members of the majority party or the group elect their leader to be appointed as the Prime Minister. So if there is majority for a single party, the procedure is very easy. So they can promote their leader as the Prime Minister. But if there is no majority for a single party, a group will elect their leader, and that leader will be the Prime Minister. The President then appoints him as the Prime Minister. When no single party secures an absolute majority in the Lok Sabha, the President may have some option in the appointment of the Prime Minister. That's what we are discussing. The President has to appoint that person who can prove that he has the support of some smaller groups or parties in order to have majority in the House. So if a single party does not have majority, then the President will call a person who can prove majority by that he has the support of some smaller groups. If some smaller groups or some smaller parties support him, then he can prove his majority. Council of Ministers. The Prime Minister shall be appointed by the President, and other ministers shall be appointed by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister. Prime Minister has the sole authority to choose ministers. By convention, the President has to accept the choice of the Prime Minister in the matter of appointment and dismissal of ministers. So he will make the Prime Minister will make the choice. President has to appoint ministers on the choice. He has to accept the choice of the Prime Minister. And see, in the matter of appointment and dismissal of ministers, the decision will be taken by the Prime Minister. And President will act accordingly, according to the advice of the Prime Minister. Normally, only the members of Parliament are appointed as ministers. In normal case, only MPs, members of Parliament, will be chosen as ministers. In case a non-member is appointed as a minister, he must be elected or nominated to the Parliament within 6 months from the date of his appointment. That is another case. Normally, MPs, that is members of Parliament, will be chosen or will be appointed as ministers. In case if a non-member is appointed as minister, either he should be nominated or he should be elected from a constituency within 6 months of his appointment. If he is not elected or if he is not nominated, he or she should resign from the post of a minister. So that's all about appointment of ministers. Now we have to study term of office. According to the new syllabus, so much portion is cut, and now we have to study term of office. The ministers hold office during the pleasure of the President. But the President has little power even in this regard because the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers are directly responsible to the Lok Sabha and can remain in office so long as they enjoy the majority support in the House of the People, that is Lok Sabha. So appointment and removal is done by the president. That is only for name's sake. But these ministers, Council of Ministers, are directly responsible to the Lok Sabha because they are elected by the people. India is a democracy. So directly elected by the people are powerful. And they are directly responsible to the Lok Sabha and can remain in office so long as they enjoy the majority support in the House. When they are having majority in the Lok Sabha, they have the power. So they will be there. So, but the president has little power because president is indirectly elected. And the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers are directly responsible to the Lok Sabha and can remain in office so long as they enjoy the majority support. When they have majority support, they can be there in the council. They can rule the country. If the Lok Sabha passes a vote of no confidence against the Council of Ministers, they have to resign collectively. If there is a no confidence motion and if they fail to prove their majority, they have to resign. That is the term of office. And the Council of Ministers are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. The Council of Ministers are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. Before a minister enters upon his office, the president administers him the oath of office and of secrecy. So when a minister is appointed, so he should take an oath. The president administers him the oath of office and the secrecy. In the oath of office, the minister swears. The minister has to swear. 1. Bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India. He should have true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India. He should move everything according to the Constitution of India. He should have total faith and he should obey the rules and regulations in the Constitution of India. Second, uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India. He should raise the sovereignty and integrity of India. Then, third, faithfully and conscientiously discharge his duties without fear or favor, action or ill will. He should be impartial. He should discharge his duties without any fear or favor. He should not be favorable to anyone. He should not be scared of anyone, or without any action or ill will. He should be impartial. He should discharge his duties impartially. In the oath of secrecy, the minister swears not to directly or indirectly communicate or reveal to anyone any matter which is brought for consideration except as may be required for the discharge of his duties. Oath of secrecy. He cannot disclose each and everything to the public. If it is necessary for the governance, then only he can disclose the matter which is brought for consideration. Then every minister must be a member of either House of the Parliament or must become one within 6 months of his appointment, failing which he will have to vacate his office. So we know that each and every minister should be the member of Parliament or must be a member of either House of Parliament, upper house or lower house, Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha. He should be a member or must become one. Otherwise, he should become a member within 6 months of his appointment. Otherwise, he has to vacate or he has to resign. The salaries and allowances of ministers are such as Parliament from time to time by law determines. The salary of these ministers will be considered or will be decided by the law. Distinction between Council of Ministers and the Cabinet. we needn't study the cabinet in detail, but we have to know the distinction between the cabinet ministers and the council of ministers. Council of ministers. The council of ministers consists of all categories of ministers, cabinet ministers, ministers of state and deputy ministers. Council of ministers include all the ministers of different categories like cabinet ministers, ministers of state and deputy ministers. All ministers are included in the council of ministers. But cabinet. The cabinet is a smaller group consisting of senior ministers holding important portfolios such as defense, finance, home, etc. So cabinet is a small group of senior ministers who are dealing with important portfolios like defense, finance, home, etc. Now, Council of Ministers. The Prime Minister may or may not consult the other ministers below the rank of cabinet ministers. See, cabinet ministers are the most important ministers. So, Prime Minister may or may not consult with all the ministers in the council. But cabinet, they are the most trusted colleagues of the Prime Minister. So these cabinet ministers are the most trustworthy colleagues of the Prime Minister. He would consult each and every matter with the cabinet. The Prime Minister always consults them. The decisions of the cabinet are binding on all the ministers. The decisions of the cabinet is the final. So that would bind on all the ministers. So they are the supreme authority. Now, Council of Ministers. In the day-to-day working of the government, the Council of Ministers as a whole rarely meets. The Council of Ministers rarely meets. They needn't meet always. But Cabinet. The Cabinet is a small cohesive group of senior ministers who determine the policy and program of the government. So they meet as frequently as possible. So this cabinet would meet always because they consult with each other and decide all matters. So the cabinet is a small cohesive group. They are well-connected group. The group of senior ministers who determine the policy and program of the government. They only decide the policies and programs of the government. So they meet as frequently as possible. They have to meet. They meet frequently. According to the Constitution, the President acts on the advice of the Council of Ministers. But in reality, it is not the Council of Ministers, but the Cabinet which advises the President. See, actually the Cabinet only advises the President, not really the Council of Ministers. But according to the Constitution, in the Constitution it is written that the Council of Ministers advise the President. But in reality, the Cabinet only advise the President. Now, Cabinet. In day-to-day governance of the country, the Cabinet advises the President through the Prime Minister. So, in day-to-day activities, the Cabinet advises the President through the Prime Minister. Prime Minister is the mouthpiece. The Cabinet decides everything and the Prime Minister only talks or only guides the President. Now, position and powers of the Prime Minister. While the President is the nominal head, it can be a question, who is the nominal head of the executive? The President is the nominal head, only the namesake. With the backing of a majority in the Lok Sabha, the Prime Minister is the real head of the nation. So the real head of the nation is the Prime Minister. At present, Narendra Modi is the real head of the nation. But in a parliamentary democracy, his deeds are closely judged, not only by the opposition, but also by the members of his own party. But the Prime Minister is closely judged by the opposition and also by the members of his own party. He is answerable to all the actions. If he tries to assume dictatorial tendencies, he cannot escape the loss of confidence of the parliament during his tenure as well as that of the electorate in the following general elections. If the prime minister acts dictatorially, that means if he acts as a dictator, then he will be questioned, and he will lose the confidence of the parliament during his term of 5 years itself, and he will not be allowed to contest the next election. Thus, he is the head of the government and answerable to the people of the country. So, the Prime Minister is the head of the government, but he is answerable to the people of the country. Now, Prime Minister and the President. All authority vested in the President is exercised by the Prime Minister. He is the principal advisor of the President. So, all the actions are done by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister. So, Prime Minister is the principal advisor of the President. Thus, the President is the nominal head and the Prime Minister is the real executive of the Indian Union. So, that's why President is called the nominal head. He is the head of the nation, only the namesake. And Prime Minister is the real head. Then, it is on the advice of the Prime Minister that the President summons and prorogues the Parliament and dissolves the Lok Sabha. President does all the actions, summons and prorogues the Parliament. He calls for the sessions and he prorogues the Parliament and dissolves the Lok Sabha. Everything. All this is done according to the advice of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister chooses the ministers and on his advice, the President appoints them. See, that's there. Prime Minister only chooses the ministers, but according to the advice of the Prime Minister, the President appoints them. The ministers may be dismissed on the advice of the Prime Minister. So, if a minister should be dismissed, that will be on the advice of the Prime Minister. President will do that. He advises the President on various appointments to important posts such as the judges of the Supreme Court, the governors and ambassadors. The President does all the appointments on the advice of the Prime Minister. Prime Minister advises the President on various appointments to important posts such as the judges of the Supreme Court, the governors and the ambassadors. Then, he is a link between the President and the Council of Ministers. That is a short question. Who is the link between the President and the Council of Ministers? The Prime Minister is the link between the President and the Council of Ministers. Our Constitution lays down that it shall be the duty of the Prime Minister to communicate to the President all decisions of the Council of Ministers relating to the administration of the Union and the proposals for legislation. So, it is written in the Constitution that the Prime Minister should inform, Prime Minister should communicate to the President all the decisions taken by the Council of Ministers relating to the administration of the Union and the proposals for legislation. A minister cannot discuss any matter of national policy with the President on his own. There is a protocol. Only the Prime Minister is allowed to inform or discuss any matter of national policy with the President. No minister is allowed to discuss such matters to the President directly. So, 5 points are enough. See, actually 4 points are enough, but I have taken one extra. Collective responsibility. So, what is collective responsibility? The Council of Ministers shall be collectively responsible to the House of the People. House of the People means Lok Sabha. So, all the ministers in the council, that means a council of ministers are collectively responsible to the House of the People, to the Lok Sabha. The principle of collective responsibility implies the following. Let's see what are they. The decisions taken in the meetings of the cabinet are equally applicable to all the ministers, even though they may differ among themselves on a particular policy. So all the decisions taken in the cabinet should be is applicable to all the ministers, even though they differ, even though they do not agree with it. They have to obey. So even though they may differ among themselves on a particular policy, but still they have to agree with it. It is equally applicable to all the ministers. The decisions taken in the cabinet is applicable to all the ministers. All ministers jointly share the responsibility for the government's policies and performance. See, all ministers are collectively responsible for the government's policies and performance. The ministers must function as a team in supporting and defending government policies inside as well as outside Parliament. The Council of Ministers means they are a team. So they should act as a team, they should function as a team in supporting and defending. It is their responsibility to support and defend and protect the government policies inside as well as outside Parliament. A vote of no confidence against one minister is a vote against the whole ministry. So if one minister does something wrong and if there is a no confidence motion against that minister, all the minister, if that no confidence motion, if they cannot prove the majority, then all the ministers should collectively resign. A vote of confidence against one minister is a vote against the whole ministry. Such a ministry that has lost the confidence of the Lok Sabha has to resign. If they lose to prove their majority, then they have to resign. Individual responsibility. The ministers are individually responsible to the president. So each and every minister is individually responsible to the president. That means they hold office during the pleasure of the president and may be dismissed by him. The president may dismiss him. The president appoints a minister. Same way the president may dismiss a minister. But it should be on the advice of the prime minister, even when they may have the confidence of the legislature. But a minister is appointed as well as dismissed by the president on the advice of the prime minister. Each minister is answerable to the parliament for the department under his control. If a minister has a department, then he has to answer each and every questions. He is answerable to the parliament for the department under his control. It is his responsibility. It is obligatory for him to answer all the questions asked by the MPs regarding the function of his department. If a minister is having a department, he has to answer all the questions asked by the MPs regarding the function of his department. If he is a railway minister, he has to answer all questions regarding to the railways. And if he or she is the financial minister, he or she should answer all the questions regarding to that department. Like that, he is answerable to all the problems of his department, his portfolio. Every minister is responsible for matters such as personnel lapse, departure from official policy by him or by his department. So each and every minister is responsible for matters such as personnel lapse. If he does something wrong, he is responsible personally. Departure from official policy by him or by his department. There should be a policy. If his department departed, or if his or her department just went away from the policies, if they does something against the policy, he should answer. And breach of oath of secrecy and so on. Breach of oath. See, he has to take an oath of secrecy. If he does not obey that, if he does not follow that, he should answer. There are many occasions when a minister has owned responsibility for the mistakes or shortcomings of the department under him and resigned from his post. If his department went against the policy, and then he has to resign. There are many cases like that, he has owned a responsibility for the mistakes or shortcomings of the department. If there is a shortcoming or if there is a mistake done by his department, the concerned minister should resign. There are so many cases like that. That's all about Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching. God bless.